Next up, we have a very interesting game here. This is a game that's going to be crucial in the playoff race because this is easily a trap game for this team. Texas A&M goes to Auburn, Alabama to take on the Tigers. Texas A&M goes out. I think that game against LSU, they beat LSU yesterday, but the final score was only 20-7. I think that's more of a knock to Texas A&M in that game than it is to LSU, who actually lost the game, because when you're a team fighting for a playoff spot, especially when there's so much going on, if Notre Dame or Clemson drops another game, I thought Notre Dame was going to drop that game to North Carolina this week. Notre Dame, I feel like they could drop a game. If they drop one, Texas A&M, you're a team that's going to have to start running up the scoreboard because you're going to be going up against Cincinnati, BYU. You're going to be going up against who else? I want to say Northwestern just lost to Michigan State, so that kind of tosses up everything in that scenario because it was looking like Ohio State and Northwestern were going to go undefeated into the Big Ten championship. I've heard that Ohio State might not even play in the Big Ten championship this year because of lack of games. They only play in like 6 games this season because a ton have been gone due to COVID. They might even play 5 games, and there's a certain minimum that you have to meet to play in the Big Ten championship. So Texas A&M really has to impress the committee with their scores and everything because it's going to come down to the wire. This playoff race this year is going to be very interesting, especially if you have a team like Notre Dame or Clemson drop another game. You're going to have a team, an SEC 2 team. You're going to have a group of 5 team. You're going to have a Big Ten 2 team. The Pac-12 and Big 12, in my opinion, are out. Oregon loses this weekend to Oregon State. I'm happy about that. I'm not a big Pac-12 guy at all. The only other team, USC's in the mix. People are like, oh, they got it. I think ESPN has them at like a 14% chance of making the playoff this year. And then there's like Washington at a 1% chance. Oklahoma State, they lost 2 games. I don't see them making the playoff. I was like, they're the only team, in my opinion, that's going to make the playoff out of the Big 12 because you had Texas and Oklahoma lose 2 big games early on in the season that pretty much screwed up their resume and screwed up Oklahoma State because even if Oklahoma State won those games, yes, they would have been undefeated, but it wouldn't have been against good quality teams because Oklahoma and Texas have been very weak this year. I'm pretty sure like Iowa State's up there in the Big 12 championship right now. They're a team after losing the first game of the season to, I remember watching that game. It was to Louisiana Lafayette. Oh, Iowa State lost the first game. They've come back and they've played some pretty good football. So back to this Texas A&M Auburn game because this is a playoff race game. That was what I was going into there. That was what I was touching on because this game is going to be crucial for the playoff. Texas A&M, if you want to prove that you are a playoff-ready team, this is a game. Even though Auburn's probably going to be unranked because they go out and lose to Alabama, going into that game, I watched a bit of that game. I was flipping between that and the Egg Bowl. Auburn was the final score, 42-13. Sarkisian goes in as the acting head coach for Alabama. You knew what you were going to get from Alabama. You knew that this game was going to be high. Like, the spread going into this was 24. I didn't think that Auburn really had a chance in this one because Alabama's the best team in the nation for a reason. Their offense and defense were on last night. Mac Jones throwing for 302 yards, Harris rushing for 96, and Devontae catching for 171. They can toss the ball up. Mac Jones could literally be blindfolded, toss the ball up anywhere on the field, and someone will go out and catch that ball. That's a really good football team. So I wasn't expecting Auburn. I was expecting it to be a bit closer because it was a rivalry game. But nonetheless, I expected Alabama to win in this one. Auburn got run over defensively and offensively. They just couldn't put up any numbers to compete with Alabama. Even though Auburn isn't going to be ranked in this game, I feel like this is a good game to prove to the committee that you are a good team, especially if you could run up the scoreboard against Auburn and hold them to minimal points. Texas A&M has a really good defense, and Auburn's offense has been very, very shaky this year. Like, they're a team that you go from weeks like, let's say, they lose to South Carolina. I think they put up like 23 points in that game. They smack LSU. They put up like 43 points in that game. They've had a lot of up and down games offensively where the Georgia game, they weren't able to do anything. I remember watching that early season showdown. They've been really inconsistent offensively. So if you could get them in a bad spot offensively, make Bo Nix, make some mistakes and everything, limit the rushing game, they got some good receivers over there in Auburn, so Texas A&M corners are going to have their work cut out for them. But if they're able to hold them to a minimal number on offense, that's going to look really good to the committee. And then also, you got to put up a lot of points. I feel like points scored are going to be the most key factor into going up into this playoff race, because all the teams that are in the playoff race right now are really elite offensive teams. They're teams that can run up the scoreboard. So if you're Texas A&M, you got to prove that you're one of those teams that can go out there and completely run up the scoreboard. This is a big game to prove to that committee that if something happens, if there's a shakeup, that Texas A&M can get into that college football playoff 4th spot and maybe play Alabama in, what would that be? It would either be the Rose Bowl or the Sugar Bowl. Hopefully the Rose Bowl. I love watching SEC teams in the Rose Bowl. Obviously, it's the best bowl in all of college football, in my opinion. Even though it's out west in California, it's still the most classic bowl. What is Texas A&M? Texas A&M just needs to keep doing what they're doing. Their offensive line has been absolutely amazing this game. I think I've heard that they haven't let up a sack since like the Vanderbilt game, which was their first game of the season. I've heard tons of different things in this game, because I've heard they let up a sack in the Alabama game. I've heard that they let up a sack in the Vanderbilt game. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if they let up a sack last night against LSU. They might have. They might not have. I didn't really watch the game. I was more focused on the South Carolina-Georgia game at that time. Texas A&M is putting up 31 points a game, while Auburn is putting up 26. Texas A&M is only allowing 22.4 points, while Auburn is allowing 24.5. Total yards a game, Texas A&M 418, Auburn 395. So very close numbers here. Like, again, this is easily a trap game for Texas A&M. This is easily a game that Texas A&M could go out there and lose, because Auburn is a good football team. Even though they've had their struggles this season, they've had their ups as well. Very inconsistent team, in my opinion. This team is a team that is either really hot, they're playing really well, or they're just not playing good at all. So hopefully Texas A&M can catch them at a bad time, because even though I like Auburn a lot more than I do Texas A&M, I'm always going to be a guy who roots for SEC teams to be in the playoffs. I love when there's 2 SEC teams in the playoffs, no matter who they are. I just feel like it looks better on us as a conference, especially going up against the Big Ten. People think that the SEC isn't the best conference in all of college football. That makes me laugh, but it is what it is. Sorry. I've been talking for a long time now. I just need to catch my breath, catch some water so I could keep talking to you guys. Rushing game, take Bigsby. Obviously have to get going in this one. I can't remember what he put up in the Alabama game yesterday, or if he even played at all, because, again, I was just flipping through that game. I did hear that he was dealing with some kind of injury in that game, going up against, I think that was in the Tennessee game. He was dealing with injury in that one. So I'm just pulling up the box score here. Yeah, he rushed for 11 for 39. He's a guy that really sets that tone on offense for Auburn this season. I've really seen when he's able to get going, it seems like the rest of the offense plays a lot better. So if Auburn wants a chance in this game, definitely get the run game established with Bo Nix. Texas A&M, just hold up the line. Auburn can get to the quarterback sometimes, so make sure you hold up that Auburn defensive line. If you bully them at the line of scrimmage, Texas A&M is going to be put in a really good position to score a lot of points in this game. So offensive line, if Texas A&M offensive line can keep playing well, that's going to be really good for them. What else does Texas A&M? Just hold them defensively, force a couple turnovers in this game. That will help Texas A&M get the ball back in their offensive hands and score more points. And I've said it, if you want to impress the college football committee, you have to score a lot of points in this game. You have to run up the scoreboard and win by a really good margin. So I am going to take Texas A&M in this one. I think they see the importance of the playoff in this game, and I am going to take the Aggies because I do feel like they are the better team in this game.